Recently, there's been an increase of Americans who are looking to get a second passport, and it makes sense. A second passport gives you more freedom and flexibility over where you can live, work, and travel.
Getting a second passport is not a new thing. In fact, wealthy Americans have quietly been getting second passports for many, many years, primarily as a hedge against global events and other circumstances.
But second passports are not just for the wealthy. Increasingly, everyday Americans are also looking at this option. However, not all passports are the same. In this video, we'll share the 4 ways that you can get a passport. We'll give you options for both small and big budgets. We'll also tell you why we think a European passport offers maximum flexibility. We'll also tell you how long it will take and what you need to get started.
Hi, I'm Matt.
And I'm Dawn.
And we're the unretirees. And last year, we decided to opt out of the traditional retirement path, and instead we live and work abroad. In fact, we live and work as expats from the Silver Coast of Portugal. And this channel is about living abroad, flexible income streams, and travel and adventure. And we invite you to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and click the bell notification so that you're notified of any new video that we release. Also, you can follow us on Instagram at The Unretirees, and you can sign up for our weekly newsletter that's absolutely free, and we'll leave the links below in the description.
So what does it mean to have a second passport? Well, a second passport means that you gain citizenship in another country that allows dual citizenship. So you are not required to give up your U.S. citizenship. Now, this is specific to the U.S. If you're watching us from Australia or the U.K. or Canada and you have different information about what it looks like from those countries, please tell us in the comments below.
There are 63 countries that allow dual citizenship with the United States, but in this video we're going to focus on Europe, where dual citizenship grants you access to all the Schengen countries.
So at this point, it might be helpful to clarify what we are talking about when we talk about the Schengen area, because this was a really important part of our decision to pursue a second passport in Europe. Now, the Schengen area is an area that encompasses 29 countries in Europe. Now, most of the countries in the Schengen area are part of the EU, but not all of them. For example, Iceland and Norway are part of Schengen, but not part of the EU. Also, most countries in Europe are part of the Schengen, but not all. Ireland and the UK, for example, are not included. However, the Schengen area will include most of the top destinations that expats look for. These are places like Portugal, Greece, France, Italy, and most recently, Croatia was added.
So when you gain citizenship in one of these Schengen countries, you can live, work, and travel throughout all of the countries in the Schengen area. And that is actually why we really like this passport from one of these countries and why we chose Portugal. Because once we have our second passport, we could live or work in any of the Schengen countries. We just show up and do it. It's maximum flexibility. But you also are maintaining your U.S. citizenship so that if at any point you ever want to move back to the U.S., you can.
So who is getting second passports? Well, over the last 5 years, there's been a 500% increase of high net worth Americans that are seeking a second passport through investment. In fact, in 2022, Americans became the most prominent nationality looking for second passports through investment. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that option later.
So there are 6 main reasons why the wealthy are getting second passports. Location flexibility as a hedge against political and economic shifts. In some cases, optimizing taxes, to have access to better health care and education, or perhaps more business and investment opportunities. And finally, safety.
So how are they getting a second passport? Well, many high net worth Americans are choosing to get a second passport through citizenship by investment. That means that they make a large investment in the country they want to move to in either real estate or business or investments. There are many countries that offer citizenship, a citizenship pathway through investments in their country.
Look, second passports aren't just for the wealthy, though. Increasingly, everyday Americans are getting second passports for many of the same reasons. Safety and access to better health care and education that costs less money. or perhaps as a hedge against economic or political uncertainty. You don't need to have a big chunk of cash to invest in one of these programs in order to get a second passport. Now, there are 4 ways that you can obtain a second passport: ancestry, marriage, naturalization, or investment.
Now, there's a couple of common questions like, do I need to live in Europe full time? And the answer is not necessarily. We'll talk more about that later in this video. And another question is, how long will this process take? And the answer is it can typically take anywhere from 1 to 11 years, depending on the method and the country that you're obtaining citizenship for. However, later in this video, we'll tell you the absolute fastest way to get a second passport in Europe right now. By the way, let me just say that if you are planning a move to Europe and you're thinking, I have so many questions, we completely get it. We had so many questions when we moved to Portugal. We felt like we didn't know anything. And so we just want to let you know that we are releasing a Moving to Portugal course. It's going to be coming up pretty soon. So we'll leave a link below if you want to join the waiting list and be notified when that goes live.
Okay, let's dive into the 4 ways that you can get a second passport. So the first way is through ancestry, or also called citizenship by descent. And this is a situation where you have a parent or a grandparent or great-grandparent who was a citizen of another country. And in some countries, if you can provide enough documentation and follow a procedure, you may be eligible to actually become a citizen of that country of your parent or grandparent or great-grandparent, just by following that process, even if you were never born in that other country or even ever visited that other country. So there are 9 countries in Europe that allow for citizenship by descent, and those countries are Austria, Germany, Ireland, Italy, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Spain, and the United Kingdom.
So each country is going to have its own qualification process and guidelines. So we will leave a link in the description below where you can get more information on these programs. Let me just say that this is the best information as of the time that we are recording this. However, these laws and guidelines can and do change all the time. So as always, we encourage you to do your own research and to consult a professional.
Well, the second way to get a second passport is through marriage. Now, we're not going to talk about this too much. I mean, if you're married or engaged to somebody who is a citizen of another country, you probably already know the details of what's required in order to get a second passport.
Now, a few anecdotes if you want to go down this path that might be worth noting. In most of these countries, you will need to be a legal resident as a spouse for 3 to 5 years or longer before you're eligible for citizenship. However, in Spain, you need to be a legal resident for just 1 year before you're eligible for citizenship. So if you're looking for a spouse, I don't know, just saying. So the third way, and probably the most common, certainly the one that we are doing, is through naturalization. Naturalization means that you apply for a visa to live in another country. You live there for a specific period of time, and then you are eligible to apply for citizenship.
Of course, you do need to remember that you have to be a resident of a country for really a long time before you can apply for citizenship of that country in most cases. And that time is normally 5 to 11 years. I mean, there are exceptions to that if you are going to do a golden visa route, which could be as little as 1 year. But in most instances and for most people, it is 5 to 11 years. For example, in Portugal and in France and in Ireland and in Sweden, you have to be a resident for 5 years before you can apply to become a citizen. It's 10 years if you're going to apply to be a citizen of Italy or Spain. Hungary is the longest, and it takes 11 years of residency before you can even apply to become a citizen.
Now, how do you qualify? Well, first of all, you want to apply for and be approved for a resident visa. Now, there's lots of different visas to choose from. We break all of that down in the course to help you choose which one is right for you. But once you are approved for that visa, you move to the country, and then you just, well, wait. But you're waiting in a really incredible place like Portugal or France or sipping Chianti in Tuscany in Italy. Not so bad.
The fourth and final way to get a second passport is through investments, or sometimes called a golden visa. Now, I'm first going to talk about the fastest golden visa program out there in Europe. That is through the country of Malta. In Malta, you can invest $600,000 and you can apply for citizenship within just 3 years of living there. Or you can invest $750,000 and live there for just 1 year and then apply for citizenship. So that is the fastest way to do it. Now, the good news is that $600,000 or $750,000 in Malta can be used to purchase a primary home. Now, we're going to leave a link in the description below with more details about this program.
Now, as Matt said, Malta is the fastest way to get a second passport in Europe right now, but there are a couple of other golden visa programs that I think are worth looking at. One of them is for Spain. Now, Spain right now has a minimum requirement of 500,000 euros to invest. But the thing is, you don't actually have to live in Spain full time. You do still have to wait those 10 years before you're eligible to apply for citizenship, but you can still maintain your primary residence in the US or the UK or Canada or wherever. If you have a timeline where you're considering retiring in another 10 years, this might be a really great way to go. Another similar program is in Greece, where the minimum investment ranges from 250,000 euros to 800,000. That depends on the type of property and the location. And in Greece, you would be eligible to apply for citizenship after 7 years.
Now, many other countries in Europe and frankly in other countries all across the world have their own golden visa programs with different limits and requirements and restrictions. And so after you decide a country that you want to focus on, be sure to check out their golden visa programs.
So we want to hear from you. Do you have questions about getting a second passport, or have you been through the process? We'd love to hear what your experience was. We also just want to remind you that if you want to join the waitlist for our upcoming Moving to Europe course, we'll leave the link in the description below. You'll be eligible for not only early bird discounts, but we also have some bonuses. And also, if you want to know why we chose Portugal over France, Spain, and Italy, watch this next video.